Should I put this in? Go ahead.
Hey, Johnny, what's up?
Oh, not much, man. How are you?
Good, man.
Johnny.
Cool.
Can you see us in here? It's okay.
I can see you. I can see a half of a man over here.
Okay, I'm gonna have to come in closer.
Yep. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
We're all family here.
Yep.
Cool.
Except-
That's better. Good.
All right, there you go.
Oh, what are you guys drinking?
I'm drinking Corona.
I just
Nice.
had it, and now I'm drinking a Bush.
Cool. Damn, I should have got a beer.
We just had this conversation. I was like, Johnny will probably have a beer with us.
I just got done eating dinner, and I vacuum sealed a little bit of ground meat, so I didn't have time. But
Oh man.
yeah, it ain't no big deal, you know.
No, it's all right. I'm probably gonna have to get up and grab or just make you grab the beer.
I'll just step out.
All right. Yeah, just grab the beer.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. Or you can grab that whole Bush thing and bring it over here.
I mean,
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. You better just get the whole case.
before we get started.
Yeah, your Corona seems a little empty. I just heard you put it down.
It is a little.
Yeah. Man, you've been on a roll, Johnny. You've been on a roll. I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I've been doing all right. Had a lot of opportunities this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how was dinner?
Good. The old lady made some salmon and a salad. Oh man, it was good.
Oh,
Nice.
nice. Yeah, my wife made we thawed out some of my venison and
Mhm.
burgers tonight. So that's what
Oh
she-
yeah, that's what I had for lunch because I was vacuum sealing. I ate some for lunch. Waited yesterday, so you start packing it, and you're like, oh, I'll eat some tonight. I'll eat some more. Then it's like I need a break.
Yeah.
Take a break.
Yeah, I have neck roast. I've been like itching to like thaw,
Mhm.
do a neck roast in the crock
Oh,
pot,
yeah.
let it go.
Yeah.
Oh,
But that-
yeah, that's good.
Oh. Maybe I should like do it in the smoker.
I ran out of venison. My freezer is empty now.
That's right.
It's
I
been a
forgot.
long season.
Oh, come on. Oh, we're gonna talk about it.
I'm okay with it.
No, it's all right. We won't talk about it. It's all right. We'll stop. We won't bring up your season at all.
We can.
That's why you're
If
drinking.
we hit it. We will.
Johnny's is way better than mine.
It is
That's
way
why you're
better.
drinking, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Long season.
When in doubt, drink it out.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That is a good one. Fill the void with beer.
That's it. I
Fill
can't
the
fill
void
the
with beer.
cooler
Yeah.
with deer meat, so I'll fill it with beer.
Yeah. Sandwich in every can.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. A
That's
little.
what we used to say. Yeah.
I
Little
like
yeast.
that.
Little.
What-
little
Hey,
yeast.
Yeah.
we were younger and we were going somewhere at a cooler full of beer. My buddy said, "We got some food." I said, "Yeah, I got a bunch of sandwiches in the cooler." We get where we were going, and he opened the cooler up, and he's like, a couple hours later, he said, "Where's the sandwiches?" I said, "There's a sandwich in every can." He thought I like packed sandwiches for everybody.
Nice.
That was funny.
Oh my
I said,
god.
and he looked at me like, man, I feel dumb. That's how he looked at me, like, oh, I should have known better.
Some people just don't get the joke.
Yeah.
They just don't get it.
I'm
I mean,
like, I was young too. I said, I don't know where we were going, like with something for beer drinking. And what got I said, I got a sandwich. He believed that I sat down and packed a bunch of sandwiches for everybody. I'm like, come on, man. And he opened it. I was so shocked. He's like, "Where's the sandwiches?" I said, "There's a sandwich in every can." He was like dumbfounded. Like, come on, dude. You serious? You know me by now.
The cabin I was in before up in Clinton County, they had like logs. I wish I had some, but like going back to like 1970, like early 70s. And I asked like the guy who owned the cabin about it. And he said he brought up a story about how they'd always take beer in with them and they put it in like a little runoff of it. And like every time they walk back there, when they got there in the morning, they sit down, have a beer, and then they go and hunt. They like replenish the beer every time they go back, like with another beer that's
Smart.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
It's always ice cold in those Rose Mountain
Yeah.
Springs. So
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
that up there, Johnny.
What's that?
Ever run across that up there?
No.
No.
Good old sixer and a mountain drainage.
Yeah. I never found it. Would have been awesome to find, but I'm sure the beer probably would have been like the can would have been like rusted and stuff like that. Like it would have been bad.
Waterlogged.
But also probably would have been. I would have probably tried it. Like it's been there. Like if it's cold,
I mean, it's like finders keepers.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't have a beer to replace it.
We were down North Carolina, I think in the spring, me and Bill from Spartan Forge, and
Mhm.
we went up on a hike, and we were down at this. There was a bunch of guys, kids camping, and that we had a 6-pack. We put it in the creek. We come back. Like I forgot about it. Bill went running over, and he come back. It's gone. I'm like, what do you mean? Some kids took our 6-pack.
Oh,
Who's
God.
Cody?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I found when I got these $2.
Yeah, 6-pack.
Yeah. Yeah. Found a 6-pack of beer down there. It's awesome.
Man. Still cold.
Yeah. Ice cold. Mountains are blue. Love it. All right. So we can get into it right away if you want to, Johnny. If you're
Yeah,
good.
I'm good. I'm good for whatever, man. Yeah.
All right, cool. So welcome back to the Backcountry PA podcast. I'm Cody. With me today is my I guess substitute co-host for what, or I'm trying to think of a name for you right now other than Tyler.
I mean, you can just start out with Tyler. I'm cool with Tyler.
Whitetail Tyler.
Yeah, Whitetail Tyler.
Yeah.
All right, that fits.
There we go.
That's a good one. Yeah.
A man who needs no introduction at all. Johnny Stewart. How's it going, dude?
Good, man. It's going good this year.
Yes, it is, Johnny. And I want to hear about your season. Before we get into this episode, we're going to talk about late season. We have a few questions that listeners, followers asked. I have a few written down. I don't know if Tyler had some that people asked him. Okay, cool. But we're gonna touch on those. We honestly, I just want to learn from you because you're good at late season stuff. So I want to learn as much as I can from you in this episode. But first, let's recap your season a little bit. So, how was your season going? I mean, people follow you on Instagram; they know that you got some buck down.
Yeah, I had a pretty good year. I shot 3 deer with a bow this year. I was on some big ones in PA early. Usually Ohio or West Virginia is like earlier, like a week earlier than PA. Here they are all coincided this year. They were all, I think, the 30th of October, and I was on to some deer in PA, and I end up hunting there. Had some cameras soaking in Ohio. I feel like if we could have been down there that week before, I might have had some luck over some white oaks dropping. But I was in a new spot in PA, not a new spot, a spot I've known. I've been going to this piece of the mountains for 20 some years. I just never put any time in there. I said, I'm going to try this year. And there were some nice herbicide cuts that were getting prime, like 2 years. And I found a couple of big deer feeding in there. And so I had opportunities at the 2 big deer. They were one was probably about 160 and the other one was in the 50s. I had opportunity at both of them. I don't know what you want to say an opportunity is. I had a bow back on one and the other one smelled me, but they were right there ready to, shake hands with. But and then I would focus so much on those early season hunts that after I had blown those opportunities or whatever, they didn't pan out. Them deer disappeared. Like, I knew where, and I was afraid of that. They were just I knew where they were late summer into fall and, early that first week of October, and it was disappearing act. And spent a lot of time like contemplating, looking for them. I kind of drew conclusions as to where they might be, and I set cameras up and I was wrong. I wasn't finding them, and I just kind of And what I would do is I would hunt between West Virginia, PA, and Ohio, whatever. I would kind of like I kind of get burned out maybe, or like spook them deer early on, put some time in there trying to get, into your spot and out, parking access, all this, leaving scent. So I usually go for a few days and go to another state and then come full circle to that, check cameras. But, when I got back to PA, it was tough to find them. I ended up getting a deer down in West Virginia. There was one single oak tree, and we caught him feeding. I knew it was dropping, but the deer we were after was feeding there the day before. The wind wasn't right, so we kind of sat back about 80 yards. It was weird, like the wind was blowing in this thicket, and so we couldn't get close to where he was bedded. Like there was a thicket, like here, and the oak tree here. So we knew he was coming out of that thicket, hitting that oak tree, and the wind was going in. But when we sat 80 yards from just like observation stand, he didn't come out of that thicket. It was so warm. It was, I don't know, 78, 76 degrees. It was like there was a steep hill this way, and I could see on Spartan Forge a little bench, and it was a shaded hillside, and there was a pretty big stream down there. All the deer come from over there, but usually I observed them coming from this thicket, but it was so hot and the sun was beating in that thicket. So the next day we moved in to that oak. I said, let our wind blow right into that thicket. And it was like clockwork. It was like as closest thing as having a deer tied to a tree. Like it was the day before 5:15, he come up off that steep hill, off that bench, hit that oak and fed. So we got in the next day. I had a cameraman with me this year.
Yeah.
We got in the next day, and it was like, I got so anxious because this is going to happen. He's coming in. Like if we looked at the watch, it was like 5:15. I was like, turn your camera on. It's go time. Here he come right up over the hill. So, man, I made a bad shot on him. I was just, I don't know. It was like in my head, I was like, this is going to happen. This is coming. Like, so anyways, I ended up getting a deer. I got 2 arrows in them, one at 25 and one at 50. And then it took a while. We had to get a dog out to track them. But yeah, so after that, through the middle of October, super slow for me. I'm talking like the 8th of October in through Halloween. And we were like every time before that early season, I was really on them. But I failed to like look forward past early season in through mid-October where either those deer were going to be or where I should be hunting that, I just put so much time early. I maybe thought they would still be in the area where they were early. Maybe mid-October, I thought I could still hunt these areas, but I don't know if it was me or just with the leaves falling, they vacated hunting pressure that time of year, being nocturnal, just everything.
Yeah.
And there's a vast amount of land there that so I had a rough time with that. But like my cameraman, every time we went out, he's like, man, this is easy. Every time we went out, we got 150-inch deer, 140, shoot one, see it, just like every time. And then we hit a dry spell, and all through middle October, it was brutal, not seeing kind of, but also hunting 140, 150-inch, like, 5+ year-old deer where you got to be tight into where they're bedding that time of year. We had a lot of warm weather. So it was kind of slow. And then I actually, the 1 or the 2 days that Harry, he's my camera guy, I had to go. I said, you're going to miss out. It was a Sunday. We were in PA. I said, Tuesday's the day, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever. He had headed home, and Bill from Spartan Ford shot his deer on a Monday.
Okay.
And so we were celebrating pretty late into the night, and he said, I'll film you tomorrow. I'm like, all right, Bill, let's go. I said, I got a spot, like a spot in my back pocket because I haven't been doing good on the bigger deer that I wanted to. I said, I got a spot, Bill. It's 100 yards from the road. I said, we can get in there a little late. It's a kill trick. I call it the killing tree. We've killed a lot of bucks there. So yeah, me and Bill got out a gray light, and he just filmed it with my with his phone. But there was a hot doe, and brought a couple bucks in, and then mine stopped, and it was pretty awesome hunt because it stopped at 24 yards, quartering toward a little bit. I had to shoot through 2 trees about the size of beer cans, like 6 inches apart. And I pulled back and shot, and that thing ducked. And I didn't like what it was. There was a spike here, and he was trying to run that spike off, and he come running and stopped, and he was just alert, I guess, and I flung that arrow, and he dropped 10 inches at 24 yards. I was like, oh man. And Bill, like, knock another arrow, because we're looking at back straps. Like, this deer could come back through chasing this doe. So it was pretty neat. We watched the film for 4 or 5 times. Like, yeah, that's back straps, and we're looking, grunting. Maybe he'll come back, And Bill said, thought I heard a crash. I'm like, yeah, everybody hears a crash, and we don't find a deer. He crashed over there, and you're 2 miles later, you don't see nothing. So
if a deer
after
down here, does it actually crash?
No.
But so after about 10 times watching a film, he's like, it was pretty good having Bill with me. It's like it was like having my own personal guide, someone that knows as much as me or more about deer. I just sat back. He was grunting, and because there were deer running, and he was ranging them for me and helping me. But that deer, he kept looking at the film. And he said, I don't know. You might be in a chest. I'm like, but we were at 15 feet up at 24 yards. So it's not like I'm shooting down, I said, man, that was only 3 inches below its spine, 4 inches maybe. And so he looked at the anatomy of a deer. He said, man, I think you're in the chest. I said, yeah, okay. But, it's going through level pretty high. I don't know, they're rutting adrenaline. I said, this is bad, So he said, well, we got to get down and go look for blood. I said, all right, let's go. So it was an hour, and we got down and saw the hair. I just grabbed an arrow, knocked an arrow in case, it's the rut. He come back through or whatever. And Bill, he walked ahead a couple steps, and he looked down, he turned around and gave me a fist bump. He's like, it's lung blood, you're in his chest. I'm like, all right, Bill, calm down, I still don't believe it, because I've been hunting so long, and
yeah.
So he started falling. Yeah, it went 130 yards dead. And it must have caught something. I was using a schwacker. It must have caught something, and it deflected like straight down into the animal to where it was like hit the last rib on the other side, and it went in right behind the shoulder. So it was almost like I was 20 feet up, 10 yards away from the deer. You know what I mean? That's how the arrow went down through. So I don't know, shit happens for a reason. It was meant, it happened. And, like, I don't believe in luck, but it was like, this was, I got pretty lucky on this shot, if you ask me. Oh, in the tree I shot between, I nicked the one. You couldn't even, the blade, if I was an 1/8 inch to the left, that arrow probably would have went tumbling, It was like, it was pretty wild. So, so that was that. And then I spent some time in Ohio. That was November, I think, 6th or 7th. And, and then I went to Illinois, and we did some public land hunting out there. We seen a big one, a lot of deer. I think that was the 13th, 10th, the 13th, 14th. Got a lot of good footage, but this one big deer, the doe was coming into our finger, and was going to bring him with, but she caught our wind, and he never come in. He ran. A lot of deer out there in Ohio, pretty much all mountain hunting except for being in Illinois and some rugged ground in Ohio. And we actually, man, a lot of guys were hunting my area and just pushed them deer. It was tough to find them from where they were early October, and we weren't down there a lot. But and then I went back to West Virginia. We gun hunted Ohio, and then went to West Virginia, gun hunted one day, and then the day after, the gun season ended on a Saturday, and I went back in on a Monday. Actually, the same area I shot that one. There was a long hike way back in. Nobody goes back there, and there was a big deer. I think, well, for that area, low 30s. That I had him on my camera like a few days earlier. He was, right at gray light coming through, and so I got up my tree, and I knew that deer was in there. So it's getting late, and I hear. And I look out with my binoculars, I don't know, 60, 70. I see horns. I said, oh, here he comes. So he comes. It's getting dark. First thing I do is put the binoculars down, And then he turns broadside. It's like 30, and I'm like, man, I don't know if that's him. You just, you know what I mean? It's like, my eyes are telling me it's a smaller buck. My mind's telling me that's him.
Yeah.
So I shot. and it wasn't the big one. It was a nice 11 point, but not the one I was after. But hey, it is what it is. And what's weird is I still had another tag after that. I get through I still had a inline buck tag for down there, and I'm not going to make it back, but so yeah, and then I'm heading down Ohio this weekend for a shotgun hunt. The weather's warm. I'm hoping I'm only going down for 2 days. I'm going to go down Friday, tomorrow, maybe bow hunt a little bit, grab cameras at dark, plan for Saturday, Sunday gun. Maybe a bow hunt again Monday. Then that's it. Then I'm going to head out to Iowa and maybe Illinois in January and try to get something. Hopefully we get some cold weather. That's the big ticket for late season, cold weather.
Yeah. I mean, I went out to Illinois last year for late season, and that was brutal. I'm not gonna lie. It was 9. I think the highest was 19 degrees, and with the wind, it was like negative 20.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. I think I had at least 5 layers on.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was bow hunting too. It was if one comes in, I don't even know if I can pull my bow back. It's like and I did all day sits, which is stupid. I realized now, it was dark to dark is when I did until the last day, and I was out there in the morning till 10 o'clock, and then I was out there from 2 to 5, and that's when I saw the most deer in the evening out there in late season. And late season, I was just hunting cornfields out there, and I saw a 180 behind me. And he was 80 yards away, and I was in a tree that was the size of my leg, and I was I was shaking. Looking back, I was I should have doe bleeded at him. I should have grunted at him something, but he was just meandering through the whole way up on top, and I still have that picture on mine, just 80 yards away, and I'm through the timber, and it's that's the biggest deer that I'm ever gonna see in my life.
Yeah.
A 180, especially coming from PA, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then the next day, the last day, I saw I'd probably say it was a 130, 130, 150 class deer, but he came out with 4 doe in the middle of the field. And what did I do? I grunted at him. No, did I use doe bleed? I doe bleeded, and the doe looked at me, and then she took off, and then I grunted, and then he turned and he looked at me, and he started walking again, and I grunted again, and this time he his whole body turned toward me, and I was oh, this might happen right now. But then he must have saw my outline in the tree, and he took off because I was in a saddle, and I thought, first time saddle hunting, and I was oh, I can just get in any tree. But now it's if you're in a tree saddle, you gotta actually have a tree that kind of breaks up your silhouette too, not on the edge of a cornfield where they're going to see you easily. So that was my mistake there, but I doubt he would have came in unless I had a decoy out there and he saw that and came into me. So that was my experience out in Illinois. So it was pretty cool doing that.
I've never been to Illinois. I've been to Iowa for a late season muzzleloader and got a really good 153-inch 8-point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Same thing. It was hunting over a bean field, cut bean field, and I mean, it was where do these deer come from? It's a snap of a finger, and next thing you know, here comes a string of deer out across this cut bean field, and it's not just a dozen of them, it's 30 of them, and it's what? You can look out across the flat in Iowa and be how do these deer come? They're coming up out of the ground or something,
One minute you're sitting there, it's you're dozing off because there's nothing going on. Then the next second you're oh my God, there's action happening right now.
And it's everywhere.
I need to warm up.
You're covered in deer. Jeez, I can't even move. There's 40 sets of eyes on you.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I haven't been there in 3 years. I always apply for the late season tag, and it's been 3 years. I'll try to bow hunt. Times get tough, I'll break out the inline, but I'd rather, if I feel like I got a chance at one, I'll go with the bow. I'll probably go for a good week, 7-8 days. Hopefully they got some snow. And I've known the area. I've been hunting out in that zone for probably 10 years now.
Nice.
So I kind of got my spots. I don't really go to too many new spots. I just stick with the spots have been working for me, and but just hoping they get some because it's been mild out there in Iowa, right up through now, even this next week. So I'm hoping I'm probably gonna go out after Christmas. Hopefully, they get that cold weather and get them deer moving. I know the one year I shot one, it was -7 degrees. Yeah, and that was without the wind. You know, I got in a tree before light. That's the most deer I ever seen. I missed one, and I shot one later. Actually, I never found that deer. It was with an inline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into some more. Like I said, I've been hunting the mountains, and actually, I was just down in West Virginia yesterday. No, day before. They had an inch of snow down about 2 hours south, 3 hours south of me. I tried doing some tracking. I didn't find a big enough track, and the hills were pretty. I think it's almost like 1,000 feet top to bottom in that area. It was pretty crazy. Nobody else is out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the snow, it was only an inch. It was calm for 2 to 4. And I went on a whim. It was about a 3 hour drive. I got there at daylight, and I did about 5 mile loop, some tracks, nothing big. But I'll probably, I like them new areas also. Probably maybe try to do some shed hunting and maybe rifle hunt down there next year, since it ain't too far and some big country that, I'm sure there's some deer that are getting away.
Oh yeah.
With that rugged landscape.
So you said you have a cameraman with you this year. So what was that like? Because I know you normally didn't do that the previous years, right? So this is the first year you had a cameraman with you.
Yeah, it was, and this is the first year using a saddle, so it was kind of a lot of things I jotted down I need to do differently. Just be more quiet, putting the platform and saddle up, just because I got it and I used it, and I'm like, this ain't too bad, which it ain't.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like all my hunting, I'm probably within 200 yards of these deer up through October. Like that's the bulk of your hunting. My hunting, if you have the time to do it, these big deer, I mean, all the way up into the 7th of November. I mean, some of these big old bucks, if you don't got a lot of cold weather and that, I mean, you just got to be close to their beds, and we made some noise and getting in, trying to set up the sticks and the platform, and a dead calm morning. A few times we bumped bucks, whether they snorted at us or we bumped them, or just know that they probably heard us. That's the biggest thing is like, we always talk about people putting pressure on these deer, and you're the one looking in the mirror. You're going in, and you're leaving the scent and in the sound, and that's why you got to have a lot of areas picked out, man, because it can go. I actually up there in PA this year, so one area I thought was a go-to, and they started putting well roads in. And then the next area where that one deer ended up smelling me, the biggest one, they started logging and cutting a well road in. And then another, I forget, there was like 3 or 4 places that were like, oh, it's gonna happen here this year. That just, oh, another guy put a stand up right by my camera, big ladder stand he drug in the day before archery season.
Oh my God.
I was like checking the camera, and the wind was right, and then I dropped down over the hill, checked another camera. I come back up, I heard something like in the woods where we had my first camera, and there was guys dragging a ladder stand, talking, look at this rub, this and that, and I'm like, oh man, and they hung it, and he was there the next morning, and he parked like right where all the deer are feeding at night, like they feed out in this open on these briars, and they go into the thicker stuff, and he parked there, and I'm like I was gonna hunt that spot. I was going to park way down the road and either mountain bike up or sneak up. You know what I mean? Like, like that, you can't be doing that stuff. Just so I think at least 4 spots that, in a place in Ohio, I bumped deer. I knew where they were bedding. We went in before light. It was windy, rainy. And it was every time with the camera, I said, we're going to go another 100 yards. Or we get up in a tree, we take about 4 steps. Deep snort. I'm like, oh.
No.
Like, we were on deer early. I knew where they were.
Yeah.
Not always about cameras, but just studying the Spartan Forge map and just knowing deer and where they want to be, where they're feeding at night, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But man, every time I went out, like, and then another spot I spooked a deer in PA. Like, well, the one big one I spooked that evening, and the next morning we were trying to set up on him. We got there. I said, we're going to step off this road. This is the gated road. And we're just going to sit right here and watch this hillside. With gray light, we take 2 steps, snap a twig, and there is deep snort, right? I'm like, oh man, we can't win, but in that spot, them deer disappeared, and they will, man. So like half a dozen spots just were blown out from me or something, logging or another guy being in there. So, and even Bo, I talked to him like mid-season, and we were like, all the time he put in, we're like, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go tomorrow. He said, me either. I don't know where to go either. And I'm like, where can I go to shoot? Like, I got a camera guy here to shoot like 130-inch deer now. My standard's dropping. I want the big buck. And I'm like, I just need to kill something. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah.
You don't know what's great about it is you don't know when you're hunting these deer in these mountain areas and that's challenging to you. Don't like end of September. I don't care how prepared you are. You don't know what the season holds.
No.
You can't predict it. You can't. That's what's so great about it is like mentally, physically, but mentally, it's like you do all you can, but you still don't know that. It's not like, yeah, I'm going to shoot one here. Yeah, I'm going to shoot one there. I'm going to shoot a couple does. Like, it could be 3 months and you ain't even pulled your bow back, and thinking you were ready for the season. And here just threw you for a turn. And you're like, wow, what do I know? But I have been keeping in Spartan Forge a journal and writing down things to do different, and that was the one biggest thing with another guy being in a tree with me is him being quiet, access, and I'm pretty big on scent. And Harry, he watches a lot of hunting public, Now, you don't have to worry about scent. I was like, hey, listen to me. I said, the wind does not, we're up in a tree. We're not, it's not like we're moving. So we're just getting we're kind of hunting one animal, one mature deer. We're not just, I'm doing this how I do it. I'm not just trying to get footage at some point. Like, I just want to kill something. But for the most part, it's like, man, you're going to drop his scent. I'm mainly worried about the wind. It kind of, the more you can conceal your scent. Well, I wear a scent lock mask and keep my clothes clean. The less it drifts off, you don't know where that, you have your scent going one direction, but you get in these mountains, you don't, in the morning, in the evening, like I know, like the animals are going down to the creek and, if he's on the hills, but you don't always know exactly. I draw a lot of conclusions just from endless hours of studying Spartan Forge and knowing deer and it's a lot of guesswork that that one big one. I guessed he was in it. Like I like he's asking me, like video me as we're going to go up the creek. He's right here above us. Like I'm saying that, but I don't have no pictures of him here, right? And I'm talking about a huge hillside, I say he's laying up there. There's a little beach brush and this and that. And then we go get up and the thermals were pulling down and we heard a deer call. I said, he's probably back in there about 200 yards. I bet she's laying there, and that sucker, he was coming toward us and I can't hear where the shit, but Harry's like, I heard a cough. I said, well, it's probably that buck, and then I was dropping my floaters. The wind was going straight down the hill toward the creek. Thermals were pulling it. For some reason, it just went right toward that deer. I'm like, oh man, and then 10 seconds it went toward it, and then it kept, and then he run up the hill. I seen his body, and then I seen him going up, and he's really big, 10 point.
Oh my God.
But it's like, sometimes early season you're sweating and you're leaving your drip, you can't always conceal that scent. You get later in October. I do. I really, especially with two guys, like in the one instance we were in Illinois and I gave him that scent lock mask and I said, make sure you wear this. What, what's your, he has clothes. He's like doing it, but don't believe it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he watches the hunting, that's his guys, and I said, we're not hunting exactly like they are. You know what I mean? And then we were in Illinois. I said, we got one spot to hunt and we're staying in the spot. We only have 4 days. I haven't been here in 10 years. I just went to that spot that I haven't time to scout. And I said, you don't understand when your wind, yeah, you have a south wind all day, but it's blown across this bean field to another finger. I said, there's deer in that finger too. I said, them deer in that finger live in this finger. They live everywhere. This is their home. And we sit here 3 or 4 days, and that all them deer over there are gonna be like, they can communicate with each other and be like, hey, don't go that way. You're gonna get shot. There's something bad over there. So that one doe, I know it's like he had his mask on, then he had his hat on, his lucky hat. It's got my lucky hat. And he tried wearing it one time before. I said, did you wash it? No, I don't wash it. He's like, I wear it all the time. I'm like, no. I said, it stinks. No, don't smell it. I'm like, he said, what does it smell like? It smells like you. I said, I said, you can't be. So I look up at him, that doe spooked. She was going to come in that finger. I said, take that effing hat off. I don't care if you bury it, put it in your pack. Don't be wearing that. Because what there was, that doe, the doe ran, and then a buck was coming like a couple minutes late, 10 minutes later, following her. And he went straight downwind and he hit our scent. And that's when I looked at him. He had a hat on. I said, get rid of that hat. Put it in your pack. He thought it was a joke, And then later, a buck came, went right, never smelled us. Right down, walked right through our scent stream. I'm like, see? I said, hey, we only got, listen to me. You listen to me, because I said, we only got 3 days to hunt. The less scent that drifts out there, the better chance we are. So we could have ended this hunt, maybe if you didn't have a hat on. I said, a doe could have come in, I shot, we would have been done, but it's that extra, it's not, it's like, I'm extreme. I take things, that's how, that's why you can be successful, because it's not an easy sport. I put myself in the places that are challenging, and a lot of times we're only hunting 4 to 5 days, and that's when we go to another state, because you can't do this. Get up at 3:30. Make sure you get a scent-free shower. Make sure your underclothes, I change them every 2-3 days. Your base layer or whatever you call them. And it's really difficult. And like I said, sometimes in these mountain areas, you don't exactly know where these deer are, man. You could be ruin it and you don't even know it. So you got to keep moving and knowing different areas, checking your cameras, and you do get burned out to where after, as I said, we're sometimes you just need to recharge your batteries and stop and go drive, 10 hours or something, go somewhere different, or just take the day off. I even learned that, it's pretty wild. You just take a day off and just relax. And then I think mentally you're like, man, I should be out there. It's a season. I'm not saying, or if you can find an area where you're okay, the scent's blowing toward that road or across this lake, you can eat in there, or maybe or just change it up. I'm always going into these rugged areas where nobody goes. And a lot of places this year were, since I wanted to hit a lot of states and I'm going to have, a film guy with me, was a lot of areas I found were closer to the road. You could, these deer also, but it was always just watching where you park. But a lot of areas were pretty close to the road, just because time, you try to get to these areas that are far from the road, and you're walking up a mountain, you're sweating. By the time you get there, all your clothes are soaked, you got to change them, and you want to sit all, you know what I mean? It's tough, to do stuff like that.
For sure.
But I have friends, close to the road, far from the road. But I mean, every season it's like, and I'll just write down notes what I need to I shot a few deer, but I'm like, man, I could have did so much better. You know what I mean? But it's a never ending thing, hunting these whitetails. You're never gonna, until you got every time and shoot a buck every time you got in the woods. It's just, you can always be a student, always learn, and and stuff like that. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. Like the new areas I'm big on that. Like if I get burnt at certain game lands down near me, I'm like, man, I just need to go somewhere new. Like someplace I never scouted before, someplace I'm just walking in pretty much blind. Maybe I set up just for an evening sit, or, I scout my way in kind of and just find the freshest sign and do that in a new area. I like doing that. And then that's when I found that this year particularly, I was kind of going off past years of what I've seen, what my intuition was at that point in the season, when I never put time in there in the off season to scout it. And then I went to spots that I actually scouted, and I would see deer, and I'd be on buck then. And it's I'm just overthinking it and not trusting what the whole process was that I did in the off season of scouting, running cameras, finding these deer, like walking through and seeing like velvet buck and getting them, like looking through binoculars at them and like seeing where they are and be like, okay, they're in this area here. One of them will stay in this area.
Yeah.
Especially if you see like 3 or 4 in an area in a bachelor group, it's like one of those buck will stay in this area. Now, I'm not at the point right now in my hunting career where it's like I'm going to chase after one buck in particular.
Yeah.
Like it's like whatever buck gets me pumped up, like I'm still going to just shoot that. Like
100%.
I will gladly shoot like the North Carolina ones that I got. I will shoot those for the next 5 years.
Yeah. Happy man about it. That's what it's about.
100%.
I mean, I feel that though too.
Yeah.
Like this year, I struggled with, like Johnny said, I put all my eggs in one basket at a place that's 3 hours away, and not really. And even doing my scouting in the off season up there, I was scouting at a time, looking for the sign for historically in the rut, not really taking into consideration that I would be on the sideline with my son's arrival. When I should have been coming up with an A, B, C, and D here, where I can hop in a stand after work. It kind of bit me in the tail.
Yeah.
And, here I am grinding it out in the late season.
Hey, we'll get on one.
Another thing is, like, as you said, Cody, is like, I've done really good in years past when I didn't have time to hunt, and I just went and looked for fresh sign, and I went to hunt here and I would kill deer. And this year I was like, oh, I gotta have a guy with me, and I did all my scouting, and like, I went with these areas, and I got a guy following me, and he's like, man, he filmed some other guys in the past, but he's like, man, you hike a lot. I'm like, you ain't seen nothing. I'm like, I would hunt a spot just because I'm like, I'd go on the next mountain. If it was just me, I'd run over there and shot. I mean, I want to find out, I'm not feel like my senses can't and there's a lot of times we just sit here just because I'm like, I don't want to, carry, he's willing to go, but I'm sensing he's like, this guy's crazy. You know what I mean? He's like, but we did more hunting since he was with me. I did more hunting than I would have probed around, as I call it, and checked the areas, or maybe slept in and let's go, maybe get in late, check this area, maybe hunt that area. I did more, just let's go hunt, let's hunt, to where it might have bit me in the ass a little bit, because when you're not having a lot of luck or whatever, sometimes you just take a morning, 2 hours, and go check 4 spots close, and it's as easy as that, so yeah, I did, I should have listened to myself and checked other spots. I don't care if you don't feel it, if you got to spend a whole day and you're going to hunt the last 2 hours, I'd rather do that than sit in a spot for 8 hours. Just because. But I did that a little bit this year because I had a guy with me, and there's always that chance. But in the back of my head, I'm like, we got to go somewhere different, but we would sit it out. But yeah, I think there's years I just studied them out. Let me go check this spot I haven't been in a while, and roll in there. It's all right, yeah, this is cool. And if you don't see any other traces of human in there, like it could happen like lightning, like boom, it's over.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I think that's what I'm going to do, kind of transitioning now into the late season. My plan for the late season is like I take my daughter to daycare when my wife works, but then I have the ability to take off work. So like I can get out in the woods by at least 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So like I have to get out of the woods by 2, go pick her up, at least come home, get a shower, if I get one, all that kind of stuff, and then go pick her up by like 4:30. So like my plan is like on those days, if I take off work, go in, scout, but have the flintlock with if I something up or find that good sign, and go from there. Then a day that my wife has off and I take off, go out and do an all day, or just not an all day, because I made that mistake in Illinois, not doing an all day sit in late season.
Yeah.
I'm not being an idiot this year. I'm going to do late season, take a half day at work and go out for the evening, set up on it. Yeah. That's smarter.
Yeah.
Good thinking there, Cody.
Using your noggin.
That's using my noggin right there. But that's my plan. So transitioning now into late season, what, like everyone talks about food,
Yeah.
You know, find the fresh food, find all that kind of stuff. Like, but I heard on another podcast that you were on that I listened to today. It was I forget who it was with, but you said pressure. Pressure is a very important thing to look at. And they say food's king, but I think from hearing you talk about it, I think pressure should be held higher than food because you're pretty much in PA here. You're coming off a rifle season that it's
High
hard,
pressure.
like hard.
Yeah.
There's
Extreme.
Mennonites, Amish, even like just regular people going up to camp, like putting on heavy drives for these deer.
Yep.
And the big buck will find those areas that they won't push out or they won't get to. So like, would you agree with that the pressure kind of is more important than the food right now, or like because they have to survive, right? So like their survival is the most important, which kind of leads to that pressure build up.
Yeah, I think definitely pressure, you know, and what I'm finding now is a lot of guys are starting to shed hunt right now in December, and it's ruining. I think they should like on a national forest or whatever, like, hey, you can't shed until March or something. Because I mean, I was trying to hunt a deer. I think last year I found where a big deer was, and it was right after Christmas. We had a little snow, and it was a deer that I was hunting for 3 years, or I knew about for 3 years. He was probably in the mid-50s as an 8, you know, and I kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together because I knew where he wasn't, and I found out where he was hanging out, and I went in and I bumped him. He was with 2 other buck in the snow. I found tracks. They split up, and here I followed his track, and I got up on him. He had lost his horns. I just followed the biggest track, and the other ones I could see where they were feeding. They had horns. They were good bucks, you know. But I bumped him. He ran, and I saw him at 40 yards with my flintlock, no horns. So he run across the road. He did a big loop. I followed him till dark just to learn about this animal. And the next day, I got on at daylight where I left off, and he did a huge loop, maybe 2 miles, come back to the same spot, and I bumped him again, you know. And I sent my buddy in there. I said, go in there and look for his horns. I said, his horns are laying there because he lives up in that area. I had to come home. He said, there's guys already in there. I'm like, get out of here.
Wow.
Like, yeah, there's vehicles. And he was in there a couple of days. It's just like these bucks get stressed out and they run down, especially if they're older and just. So here he had gone 2 miles away in like a down by a creek where he found this deer's horns 4 years ago. And he found a dead deer that was just fresh killed by coyotes, big old holes, pedicles, huge. And he called me, said, man, I said, that's probably him. He said, you think? I said, I blew him out of there twice. Them guys are shed hunting. Maybe you were in there. You know, that was a safe area to survive, that nobody messed with them. And they ate them, you know. I mean, I followed deer in January with a flintlock, and like younger, I chased them before I knew how to track deer and to get shots at them. I just thought I was going to run them down. I was, and I know looking back recently at these deer, they would lay down every, you know, and I know one was a big buck, and he was with another buck I was following them too. And this one had a huge rack, maybe pushing 170. He was there early in the season, and I never caught laid eyes on him, but he was with another buck, and the other deer had an older toe. I know this one that was pushing 170 was 4 years old because the pictures I have 2, 3, and 4, and I could tell the other one's toes were wore out. You know, it was an older deer. And when I would follow him in a beach brush, like the older one would go, and the bigger one had a bigger rack. They still had their horns just by how they would walk around these down branches. Like this big one would, you know, he would go around to stuff, and the other one would go under it. I remember he went through a beach brush. It was like 500 yards long, and I kept chasing him, and he laid down and just watched his back trail and some pines, and I bumped him. He went down across the creek. Up on the other hill, there was a bench. So I circled around and got on top of the other mountain and come down to that bench. I probably would have had a shot at him, but a little doe jumped and ran down to him, and he ran. But he kept laying down a lot too. I think he was stressed out. I never seen that deer again after that. I think, you know, you just keep running them. And then my buddy here the last day, a rifle shot one. It was a buck, fresh, bloody pedicules. You should see it, how thick. And the buck to doe ratio is really good. But he was just run down, probably a 4-year-old. I wonder if he was going to make it through. He lost his horn. So I mean, these deer need to rest. And
Yeah.
everybody's out there in the woods now. I don't even shed hunt anymore because of that reason. I wanted to let them deer go, and I'll just catch them next year with my cameras. Or
Mhm.
for the most part, they get 5 years old. Chances are they're going to be around the following year. But in my area, I'm not saying every area, you know, but yeah, they're stressing these deer out, and pressure is a big thing. If there's these safe areas, but if guys are in their shed hunting already, they just throw them for a loop. If you don't got no snow, they won't kind of be in their, like, not wintering areas, but areas that they're usually in. But
Right.
not now, guys are getting keen on the sheds and going to where their December, January feeding areas are, and they're blowing them out of there, and who knows where they're at, really.
Right.
But if you can get them areas that aren't pressured and you can find that food, and like you said, Cody, it's probably best off. I don't know if you still have cameras out, or just, like you said, maybe just hike or put cameras out like right now, and then check these cameras right after Christmas, like where
Yeah.
you think they might be feeding. But they're definitely, especially if you got some cold weather, they're moving, they're gonna move to survive a lot more,
Okay.
and feed. But I'd try to run some cameras and put some put some miles on, you know what I mean, and check as many spots as you can. And after so many years, I do know these areas that they're in, but I don't know if guys run them out of here. You're going to run them out of there, but at least check them areas. And I think the midday, if you can get out there, that's probably a good time to catch them feeding.
Mhm.
I feel like early morning cold frost or whatever, I feel like they're all just kind of laying down. You get to that 10, 11 into 2 o'clock, somewhere in the midday, they're going to move and may lay down again, then before dark. But man, if you can, like I'm gonna go to Iowa. That's my biggest thing is, man, I gotta find out where guys aren't at.
Right.
Then I'll find deer. And I don't know. I was getting tough too. I know the last time I was there, I had a shot at a 135-inch deer with my bow. He was coming toward me, and he ended up just turning away from me. I probably could have took the shot, but I wanted like a perfect shot. But man, I had a rough year there because the guys are, now, the whitetail is like a big deal. A lot of guys are hunting public land, and it's forcing these deer into private land or where you can't be hunted, or just keeping them on their toes, man. It's getting tough to find them unpressured areas. You know what I mean? Like I said, I went to West Virginia the other day, and that's where, and then I started going to areas where I know I'm not going to run into people. I don't want to see anybody, really. I mean,
Right.
you see cameras and people everywhere, but they'll find these nooks and crannies where they can get away. It might even be just walk near, a lot of these bucks are still within a couple 100 yards of a road, hear a vehicle stop. Um, and then they know to be on alert. They actually use that to their advantage, to know where you're coming in. I know there's a lot of bucks that are gonna, even this year we found a lot of deer along the roads because everybody during rifle season goes back in the woods, and they feel safe just running up and down, along the roads. But yeah, just, I think you're best off knowing
Mhm.
than not knowing that there is a buck there to hunt something. You have the next, what, week or so, to know where a deer is, whether you put cameras out. I've even seen some rubs show up this time of year, not much, but and then a lot of that feeding and digging, it's like, not when the whole hillsides and deer shit everywhere. That's usually you get some does and yearlings, but it's just them smaller amounts of digging and stuff like that is usually them bucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, or it could be not along the road. It's hard to say. They could be. I've even found them way off the road. Maybe gates are closed and guys aren't going back there. I've done that in the past in PA. I know there was one little hollow that run down to the creek, and his 10 was feeding back there. It was a long hike, and I would do just the afternoon to the evening, and I said, at least I know nobody's back here.
Yeah.
So in
Right.
them situations, but that was before the shed hunting craze. Um, Keep an eye on the parking spots. See if I always look, if anymore we don't got no cold weather. See if people are parking. And there was a guy parked here. Nobody's been here. Boot tracks. Oh, this guy been in here already. Hopefully you got some snow and you can just find a track, and get on one. But who knows if that's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But that'd be a good thing. but then you track up on one and he ain't got horns. But keep at it. Just don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually want to kind of touch on that, Johnny.
Yeah.
So as a greenhorn to tracking, like when there's a fresh skiff of snow, like what would be one thing you would say to a person that's new to tracking, like a mature buck? What's his habits? What would be your strategy going forward once you find a good buck track?
If you got a good deer track, or if you start on them, be ready and look left and right. If you're following his tracks that way, that's the biggest thing I've learned is they'll usually J hook or it's just how they live. They meander. Um, and if you do bump them, it's not the end of the world. Give them a half hour, 20 minutes. Don't do nothing because you'll see he'll think it's just a coincidence. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
hopefully, what sucks a lot of times is I'm always looking for a good wind to help conceal your track or
Right.
your track. It seems like every time I get up to last year, right after Christmas, it was a Christmas day. It was wet, rain, turned to snow, frozen, and it was just a crust. And there wasn't good tracking weather.
Okay.
But there was a good wind. Another thing I learned, if you find them feeding when you bump them, chances are they're going to be feeding again because that's what they want to do at that point. If you find them bedded, chances are, and that's a harder animal to get a shot at, especially if you got a crunchy snow. But if you can find him feeding, you bump him, you give him that 15, 20 minutes, chances are, and then he runs, and he's worried about you, chances are he's going to go back to feeding again. And then you'll have a chance at him. That's what that deer last year, that big one that lost his horns, it was crunchy, but he wanted to feed. I bumped him feeding and he wanted to give him 20 minutes and started. It was crunchy. I walked right up to him. If he had horns, I would have had him, but if the gun would have went off. But yeah, I mean, if you could, I'm always watching the weather, and hopefully you get 3 to 4 inches of powdery dry snow.
Okay.
Then you got to watch if it warms up during the day and the top melts. Then freeze at night. Then you got a crust on top, and you're back to square one again. Then when you ain't got a wind that you can't help conceal. I mean, I'm always watching the weather and learning what the snow is doing out there to make your ideal track. You know what I mean? Sometimes I wait for that. Like even down Ohio this year, with a gun, I was up on these mountains and the oak leaves are like 8 inches thick and you can't walk. Luckily we had a day of rain, a day of high wind, to help. Same thing, man. If it's dead calm out there, it can be tough. I'm not saying it can't be done.
Right.
It depends on what the conditions are, like a dry, if it's cold and you got a dry powdery snow, or if you're out there, wind, trees are cracking, you get a wet, like rain and it's frozen, trees crack, wind blowing, them deer get skittish as hell. That's the best time to even get one. They're like moving, especially, you know, right after gun season, and they're frantic and they'll move in that for sure. That's a great time. Windy, trees cracking, wind blowing, snow blowing. Deer will just be up hiking all over the place, and then they'll tend to lay down after that. But then I always like to hopefully go in a day or so at like same down West Virginia. It was windy, same thing. Saturday was or I don't even know what day it was. 2 days, it was Monday, Tuesday, I don't even remember, but the snow blew in, it was windy, 20, 30-mile-an-hour winds. I was like, damn, that's when I want to hunt, but I couldn't get down there till Tuesday. It was calm, a light breeze, and I seen the tracks everywhere. The deer were on a move the day before, just trees cracking and moving all over the, woods, just kind of scared, can't sit still. But if then after that's, storm, they'll they're going to start moving again. But hopefully, you got something in your favor, whether it is the wind, or the dry snow. You can kind of sneak through.
Yeah.
Hopefully, and another tough thing is when you got that 40 to 50 yard sight range. That's tough hunting in.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're going to see that and you bump me, your chances of a shot are pretty slim because he's either heard you already or he's in that range and it's gone. So if you can get him in the woods that are, if you see that 100-yard distance, oh man, you can get a good shot at him. So it's always tooth, if you know your land enough, you're thinking about what's the easiest area to hunt. Yeah, I know there's a big buck living in this thicket. Well, how am I going to track? You know, I can never get a shot at him. So maybe at a place that's off the road where nobody's at and you can see a long ways, maybe that's where you want to start. You know, you got some sight, you know, I wouldn't be afraid to take a 100-yard shot in my muzzle loader. You know, that's about my maximum. I feel pretty confident with that, you know, on
Yeah.
where if you can see 100 yards, that's pretty good for tracking. That 100-yard distance to me is like, but any more PA, you know, that it's tough to get the conditions you want. You
Yeah.
know, you don't always get the slash deer with that one. You know, it's not like it used to be, man.
Oh,
It'd be a
No,
lot of fun. So
that one
that's
day.
why I drove to West Virginia and just it was calling for 2 to 4. Like I got to hunt in the snow. It's been 2 years. I drove. I told the old lady, I'm going. Where are you going? We're going to West Virginia. Time you leave? It's about 3 in the morning. You know.
The last time I hunted snow was this buck right here. That's the last time I was in snow.
man.
That's the last time, and that was 2021.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's accurate.
so,
Same.
That's
Same
our
for
first day
me.
of rifle.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh
And
yeah,
then
that's when I tracked and shot one month. That yeah, me too.
yeah,
21. Yep.
yeah. This guy was chasing two doe. Well, two doe came literally my stand. It was like the first time I had like a quote unquote mobile setup, but it was like a muddy captain chair
okay.
with like the silent steps, the ones that like they're like kind of like V's that
Oh,
go like
yes.
this, and you strap them around the tree,
Yep.
and you
Yep.
like
Oh
it's,
yeah.
they're terrible steps. Don't ever buy them. I don't recommend them at all. But they're so noisy. It's terrible. But like I was in a pine tree and like these two doe came running literally directly underneath my stand. Like if I would have had to take a shot, it would have been like right down like
Wow.
this. And he came out like I watch him go down. They're going to the thermal, the thermals that I thought they would go to, like like this pine thicket down there. They're running to, and I look to my right, like 80 yards down. He comes out, and I'm like, I see 4 on one side. I'm like, oh shit! So I pull up, and he drops right there, and I'm like, oh my god,
This is easy.
That literally just happened. Like I set this tree stand up the day before. I got up to the cabin, Ethan's cabin, at like I left here at like 5 a.m. in the morning. Got up there like around lunch, and then like I didn't even unpack my truck and took the tree stand out and was like, I'm hanging my tree stand up here. Like I'm not messing around. I'm hanging up there. I'm trying to bump anything, but I'm carrying this like 20-pound thing on my back and like the backpack on top of that. And like I'm going up a hill that's like I think the incline or the elevation increase was like it was like 200 or 600 to the 2000, and I was like, this is terrible. Like I'm going up this winding like logging road. Like, dude, this better be effing worth it. Like, I get up there, and it was like an old clear cut, 2016 clear cut, sat up right in the middle of it, and and he came right through right as I thought, and I thought he was chasing. He might have been chasing, but I think like it was a steep drop off on the other side. I think the pressure kind of like the thermals started to rise for when I shot him. So I think people were walking the bottom, which bumped him
Up to you.
and came across. So I think that's what it was. I went up there and sat a little bit, and there was a bear that came the same way, came on his same trail that came through. I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. You know, pretty cool second day of rifle season. I get down, I drag it like I don't even quarter it up, and it's like a 4-mile drag. And I'm dragging it down with my backpack, my rifle, everything like that. I'm like 9:30 in the morning. I'm dragging it down the hill. Like I don't know if it's it. The guy I talked to now that after we started the podcast, after getting all the followers and everything like that, and following all these different people, the guy I talked to kind of looked like Jake Belinda. Like, what's going on there? So I don't know if it was him. Like, I'll find out next week before we talk to him. But,
remember that time?
But like he was like, "Oh, that's a nice buck," and then he like got to the top. Ethan was like at the hunting this in my tree stand, and the guy he saw the gut pop. Like, yeah, that's from an 8-point buck. He's like, "How'd you know it was from an 8-point buck? Like, how can you look at a gut pile and tell it's from an 8-point buck? Like, I don't understand that."
But your skill.
Yeah. But I told my dad, I was like, yeah, he's a decent buck. My dad
Yeah.
gets over, like, we're driving back, and he's like, holy fuck, Cody, that's a nice buck.
Yeah.
So
That is a nice
That is
buck.
a good deer.
yeah, I think it's my biggest one so far. But yeah, so that was my, I guess you consider rifle season is late season. You know, it's
Yeah.
late season.
Yeah, I consider that. Yeah.
So based on that, the clear cuts, I know that's a big food source, right? So
Oh
like,
yeah.
would you consider hunting that in the late season, or how early of a cut would you want? How old of a cut would you want to hunt that kind of clear cut?
It depends if they're, it goes back to the pressure. If it's not pressured, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Always around the, 3, 5 year, but not saying an older cut, even 20, 30-year-old fire cherry or something, some beach, something, there might be some browse in there or some daylight comes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, cuts, I think a lot of the areas I think about up north in PA are just a lot of steeper hills. I think even if you get the snow, I think they like feeding on them steep hillsides. You think about it, it's easier. Gravity helps them scratch, and I always see how like uprooted stumps, like they walk their noses right. It's way if you think about a deer. I mean,
Yeah.
and they get, just being efficient and feeding on a level compared to a 2-to-1 slope. It's like, well, I'm going to feed on this hillside because I just paw when all the snow falls. You know what I mean? So steeper
Yeah.
hillsides, them ferns, and um, yeah, I try to find more. I mean, if you're going to post or something, yeah, maybe a cut if you know he's in there, but usually more open woods where I can maybe do some steel hunting. But if if you know he's messing with a cut, I mean, I find sheds in cuts, and I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they're in the daytime, feed, not just nighttime. If
Yeah.
nobody's or you could just maybe track them back to maybe they are feeding at night near a road, maybe they're down in a, definitely some hemlock, some thermal cover. If it's really cold, catch them in an area like that. But I know we haven't had a lot of cold weather, and I've seen them sporadic. Especially if browses everywhere. But I mean, back in the day, definitely some thermal cover, hemlocks, and out of the wind, out of the elements a little bit. Even just as far as bedding, like even just the last day of the season here, I bumped a couple. I was trying to push some bucks for my buddy, and you find them bucks bed just out of the wind. Think of that. So if you got like a west wind, just anything. It doesn't have to be a sharp drop off. Just look at the Spartan Forge. You just put it on 10-foot contours and just that's all you need. That one contour line, and the wind will be going right over top of them. Just out of the elements a little bit. Um, Definitely, that's a big thing. Anything they could, people talk about south slopes, but I don't see it much in PA. I see the bucks on. I don't think that sun is something they really worry about. I've seen the bigger ones. I feel like they like the dark areas.
Okay.
Feel like it's dark to me where they like to be. The bigger deer. Um, but yeah, out of the wind, out of the elements, blowdowns.
Yeah.
But then again, and bucks will kind of start ganging up a little bit and hang out together like does and kind of use each other to help, you know, now that they're later in the season and survival, they can be buddies again and kind of watch out for each other. You could
Yeah.
tend to be a couple bucks together, you know. So it's a lot of times I see that, few bucks hanging out together. But yeah, that midday is definitely a good time.
Yeah.
Before that front comes in, any type of front, see a shift in temperature. Um, but this might want to feed before that shift in the temperature, like late season. I feel like they'll tend to move, and yeah, just put a lot of hours in trying
Yeah.
to studying them. I mean, I'm always on Spartan Forge. I mean, even today, like, I mean, always
Mm-hmm.
intimately knowing that, like they do. Like then if I know what they know,
Yeah.
okay, that's all I need to know is I know what the land looks like. I know where the does hang out. I know where they're at late season, and then if I'm in the woods, I don't really need an app to navigate because I know the area. I know or if I can look at that next mountain, I know that mountain. I know the next, but study your maps and know it intimately, and then you'll start seeing where these deer are just out of the wind. And that's another reason, like I went up to camp just to put drives on for my buddies,
Mm-hmm.
just because I wanted to hike and keep fine tuning it, man.
Right.
There's all these little crevices and that you don't, and I'm thinking when I'm pushing it in, well, this buck can be here, but we had one good deer I bumped twice. Um, he was off his flat and it just dropped down in some pines, and I bumped him and he ran out the side of me, and I didn't have a guy posted. I had a guy down below me posted. I said, hey, and because we had a skip of snow there. That was, I think Thursday or Friday last week. And
Mm-hmm.
I seen his bed and I seen his tracks run out the side. So the next day I said, let's do it again. I said, let's get two pushers, you know, and where he ran out the side about 200 yards, 300 yards, he slowed down because I followed his tracks in the snow. So I sent a guy there and I sent a guy below me, and two of us come in driving, and the guy three of us drove, just kind of moved deer. And the guy, we was just kind of yipping and hollering so two of us, we didn't have guns. We were pushing, and the guy to the right was walking with us. And I said, you just stay quiet in case one runs this side. And we were hollering as we moved. I could see my buddy 100 yards away. He didn't have a gun. I turn and look, and he was cresting the hill when he was just about getting where that buck was bedded the day before. He jumps up 40 yards in front of my buddy, goes out the side. I'm like, oh, here we go. Shit's getting real now. Boy, I'm just waiting for a shot. No shot. I'm like, but when these big deer, it's like, so he never moved. He listened to us yip and holler for the last 400 yards. He waited till we got right up on him. He's like, oh, these idiots.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any snow, but I followed his tracks in the leaves. He went out the side about 50 yards, straight up the hill, back behind us. I followed him up on that flat, and yeah, just it gets frustrating, because they're masters at getting away. And the day before, I put a drive on for my buddies, and I bumped these buck, and they were going toward him, but the wind hit me in the face, and I seen the tracks, and they made a left. I was like, it's tough, but yeah, know the area as well, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether it's the off season, and then it changes, it evolves, whether it's new people coming in or different deer moving in, deer dying, or some type of herbicide spray or a cutting going on, or who knows. Like all my spots, why I have a hard time getting to new spots sometimes, because it's a new year, but they're utilizing the land a little bit differently because it's a year older, and there's a deer a year older, some are dead. And so it's kind of like you go through it again with a fine tooth comb, and you just keep going over it, and learning that area. But I do have areas that I know deer like the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I'm talking 10, 12 years of whether it be shed hunting or just being out in January with a muzzle loader, and where I tend to see these bucks, they're there every year. I'll tend to see does on this area. I go over here, the leeward side sometimes is where them out of the wind, and I'll tend to see them bucks there. So it's like I got a handful of spots. Like if I had a tag, I'd check them, whether I probably have a few cameras out now in these areas that I have previous, knowledge of where bucks are, and
Yeah.
just to get some more inventory of what's left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
So you said about south and north sides slopes, all that kind of stuff. Like, do you see that doe primarily are using the south sides more than the buck, and the buck are still staying on the north side because they can just come up on top? Like the clear cut I'm thinking of, I'll try and paint a picture here. So there's where I'm thinking in my mind, and my gut's telling me this too. There's a small little draw that comes out, and there's signpost shrubs going down to private, and the clear cut would be I guess it would be the north of him. So, or no, it'd be the south of him, I guess. So he'd be going up the hill to the south side. So this clear cut is on top. sun's going to hit it all the time. It's going to be warm. Do you think that these doe would be bedding on the south side, and that's what I primarily see over there, and then on the north side he's staying over there because he doesn't want to fight the doe for food right now and during the season, even during rifle too, and privates right there?
Yeah, I definitely see that those does hang out more on a south slope. And just him probably being on the leeward side, like he's downwind. That's downwind of everything. With a easy move, he can smell all those does. He wants, you know what I mean? Like he's probably more or less using that wind. If it's coming up out of the southwest, he can just kind of come off the leeward side around the point or up over and smell them deer, you know, thermals aren't dropping yet. But yeah, I just never seen them bucks worry about that south slope. I mean, up in PA, it was never something like, oh, I got to hit the south slope because I go to the north slope and there's just as much sign. So it's nothing. I'm sure there's probably instances that, you know, when maybe when the snow's about, maybe if there's a crust on the snow and, you know, frozen and then it's hard to dig through. Okay, let's go to the south. It's easier. You know what I mean? Like in a situation like that, it only makes sense.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But usually the leeward side is where them big deer are, you know what I mean? They're basically downwind to everything if you could play the wind or, you know,
because this
but then they'll start grouping up and not so much, you know, and then food is it's survival, but not also, it's not maybe if it's a, you know, been a tough year for them, it might be food is what they need to survive. Not that's when you can get them because they let their guard down, not worrying about the predators. Like, hey, I have to eat, dude. Like, you know what I mean? So they gang up and hang out with each other. So we, you know, there's more eyes in the woods, and man, we just need to eat, dude. And they'll be digging. I've seen them not even put their head up, you know, just dig and dig, you know, and so, you know, food can get them killed, you know. But that's what they're looking for. If the weather's bad, you know what I mean. If that's the scenario, and you know, hopefully it is, you know, because that's gonna make them big deer move, man. Even like I said, I've been watching the weather in Iowa and Illinois, and just hoping we get some cold weather out there because it's 10 times easier in the snow, you know. And if you get a snow up PA, you could, I mean, get up before light. Drive the roads or you know what I mean, see where they're at.
Yeah.
Walker Ridge, like down West Virginia, it was pretty sketchy up on the mountains, icy on the roads in the morning. So I got up to one mountain and I was like, man, I wanted to, you could go back down the other side, but these roads weren't wide and they were icy and I'm like, man, I could end up over this cliff. I said, I bet. So I just walked a gated road. So I'll go out here a mile and a half, just try to catch a track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully, I bet you get a snow in PA, at least one, I'd say, you know, for muzzleloader.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep an eye on the weather, and if I see snow, like if there's no snow around us, I'm going north. Like I don't care if I gotta drive the 3 hours, have the 2G or whatever. Like with your flintlock, you can obviously shoot a buck or doe.
Yep.
And that's.
I just got rid of my flintlock.
Yeah, well, you're an idiot.
I am. I just thought they got the both this year. Screw it. Hey, on a serious note though,
yes,
I do want to touch on this. I've found up north, you know, especially going into the late season. This is a little trick that Mr. Shirk let me in on, and I'm gonna let everybody else know. But it's okay. He loves spreading his knowledge, so I figure I can do as well.
I'll just bleep this whole thing out.
No, don't do that. I would like to share my knowledge as well. But you know, on these roads, after you know the inclement weather comes, you can find some drainages off the roads that are just natural mineral pits from runoff off the roads of salt. You can cross these, you know, runoffs on the road. And I mean, they're littered with tracks. I've seen a couple.
Yeah.
So yeah, just for a little note, and they're natural. So you know, You can totally throw good way to pull inventory
Yeah.
for late
Yeah.
season. I don't know, Johnny, have you ever run into that yourself?
Yeah, I know some of these state roads, you see them in the winter feeding along, and I think the plows come down there and throw, the snow and salt up on that bank, and
Yep.
they'll eat the grass, and a lot of tracks along. Yeah, definitely. I know this one buck one year, I told Bo, I said, I need to put a camera on this road. I was like, this buck lives, I mean, this is back 6 years ago. It was probably 160 inch 10. That's when you could run mineral licks. And I had a mineral lick on the north side of this east-west road. And he was there September, October. And his rubs he come up to the road. I don't think he was down in the woods very far, but he come up to the road, and his rubs were like, I thought he was crossing the road and going like somewhere south, but I just was clusters of rubs up and down the road. And I said, this deer lives along the road. You know what I mean? And I know the one in October, I caught him going back into the north side. It was like scrape season, heavy rain. I actually followed his tracks in the leaves. He was scraping, and I dropped down out of sight of the road. Man, I was probably 250 yards out of the road. And I was like, man, I was like, with my bow, I was checking a camera, and I caught his tracks, and I followed him back, and he was laying in some laurel. And I said to myself, I should be getting in a tree. And as soon as I said that, he was laying there, right? So he was hanging out near the road, feeding up and down the road. All his rubs were there. I said, man, I didn't hunt along the road. I just found that out. I thought he had this is where he crossed, thinking he's trapped, like, and so fast forward to rifle season, there was 17 cars on that road. The first week I wanted to cry rifle. I'm like, oh man, he's gone, right? Fast forward to January, muzzle loader. And right after Christmas, I got up at 4 a.m. There's tracks. It was him. It was a big track. I said, it's got to be him. Walked up and down the road, walked back down in the woods to the north. I'm like, God damn it, he's still here after all that time. And it was a crunchy snow. I said, I can't even, it was dead calm. So I did whatever that day, and I was always by myself, and I never had nobody wanted to, everybody gave up hunting. Nobody wanted to hunt. Nobody wanted to muzzleloader hunt. It was just, I was a lone ranger all the time. I said, you're crazy. I'm done. Season's over. I'm like, no, man, it ain't over. So I remember the next day, we had a skiff of snow that night. The next day, same thing. There were the tracks up and down the road. And then he went back into the north, kind of just 100 yards down the road. I'm like, I gotta go in there. I gotta try, and I waited till it got warm during the day, and it's still, the ground was frozen, dead calm. I tracked him to a bed. He was bedded with a couple bucks, and he ran, or no, he left his bed, and I'm walking on 150 yards from his bed. I found where he pissed on his dorsal glands. It was brown, and it was like 25 degrees, and it wasn't even frozen yet. I'm like, I bumped this dude. He run down this mountain, and I just taste. I'm like, I don't know. I ain't got, and he went up. He got on a bench, and he went up this mountain, and it wasn't a. I was on a bench, and I was near the top, and it was only 100 feet up to the flat at the top. And I said, well, and that's another thing I do is try to use them hillsides to where your sound as you're climbing up is kind of traveling this way, and then you can peek across that flat. And I'm following his tracks up this hill. I'm like, you could hear a pin drop, and it was crunchy. But I just had to. I mean, what am I going to do? I was heading that way anyways, back to the road. It's like I go up that hill. I just crest a hill. I look to my left. I see a deer running. I'm like, oh, there's a deer over there. And then now fast forward like a lot of years. Now I say, oh, there's my buck running the opposite way, 200 yards away. And then I found his bed. He laid in a blow down, and he heard me come up the hill, and I bumped him. And yeah, that was him. You know what I mean? But it's like, if I only had another person with me back in the day when because a lot of the times I had that crunchy snow, and I couldn't. That's happens a lot in PA. It'll warm up, and the sun will melt it, and it'll be a crunch. It's not like it, back in the day, 15 years ago. And you'll get a couple inches and it'll warm up and melt, and you got to crunch the next day. Then you're, or like, try to get someone else if you have to hire them. Get someone to bump the deer, put little drives, one man drives or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So you about that buck. So it sounds like he came back to the spot that you first saw him. Do you run a lot of cameras out there? I have 23 cameras total.
Mm-hmm.
You see buck come back to where they were in velvet by chance, or like where they were in the early season? Do you see them come back often in a late season?
Some of them just stick around.
Okay.
Yeah, they tend to do this, especially some of the older ones that dig in and this is where I live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're still there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're. I find they kind of, a lot of the areas I hunt got a fair amount of pressure to where they're doing what works. They'll be in these areas where guys are, maybe a cut or something like that at nighttime.
Yeah.
Well, even through the summer, just because that's who they are at 6, 8 years old, and then they'll visit them spots right at nighttime, or even but then they'll be in their safe places during the day, wherever that might be. But yeah, some of them deer kind of hang out. You get some of them younger deer, who knows, like they might be in a totally different area than they were October or summer, and just still trying to find their way and hook up with another 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and just we're going to travel the world, find a place to settle down and feed and just learn from other deer or bump into other deer. You know what I mean? Yeah, because the deer are always moving around.
Oh
The
yeah.
younger ones, they'll move in, but I think just being out in the woods a lot and dropping them cameras, or being out there with the snow, or getting two guys doing little bumps and drives, and just don't give up.
Yeah. I still keep thinking about the north and south side, and I really think that now that we had that discussion, I think that's kind of like the quote unquote secret that isn't really talked about too much, right? Like everyone says about hunting that south side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think everybody jumps on a bandwagon and says that. And
Yeah. I feel like
I've seen it a little bit in Ohio and this and that more, but in PA I haven't seen it a lot,
Yep.
But yeah, I've seen definitely the north sides. But like I said, an instance where maybe it's a crusty, frozen, they can't paw through the ground. Well, hey man, my toes are getting wore out. I'm gonna have to go to the other side of the mountain.
right.
Yeah.
So with that, Johnny, is there, with the Spartan Forge technology, I just saw they had this year the LiDAR technology, which is absolutely incredible. Have you found a key terrain feature that you would key in on in late season, perhaps?
I think just some hillsides, definitely. I feel like that's pretty vague, but and like bedding, just some transitions, like
Okay.
where it changes, maybe to a gradual slope to a more slope, or maybe I think more, not so much terrain, more maybe some thermal cover,
Okay.
north sides, but I don't know if terrain is all. I think just food in general is where they want to be. No matter where that may be. I don't think there's a certain terrain feature.
The key in on.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's more just where they're feeding at. They'll hang out. Maybe use the thermals a little bit, but
Okay.
sometimes just hang out in the areas they feed.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Not.
Yeah.
I mean, why? There's all. If no one's bothering them, there's 3 or 4 bucks together. They're on this hillside. Let's just hang out here. Just eat and lay here, man. But as far as certain terrain features, probably nothing really like to key in on, because I don't think it's terrain driven. It's food based. That time of year. Yeah, find a
Find
lot of these deer I see been eating cherry seeds. Um, Feeding on those.
okay.
There's not much beach up my area, but then the ferns, and then I even see them digging in sometimes in hemlocks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
I've seen that too. Like they'll be pawing at the ferns, like at the roots and stuff like that. I've seen that a
yeah,
lot.
I've seen eating a root ball, just
Hmm.
eating them into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was what, like, I would say like a few years ago, people were like, "Oh, ferns, they have no benefit to deer. They're not going to use them."
Oh
All that
yeah.
kind of stuff. And now it's like, yeah,
I've come across hillsides in the off season that look like somebody came through with a rototiller, and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
wow, this is where they went.
Yep.
You know.
Usually, them instances, like it's a bunch of does.
Yeah.
You've seen all the shit, and it's like there got to be a horn here, and it's like, not saying that but it's like you find a third or quarter of that amount of scrapping is where you'll find a buck's hanging out. I feel
Yep.
like, or a few bucks.
Yeah.
And they still kind of, not saying they won't feed with the does, but they still kind of do their own thing.
Right.
But yeah, ferns is a big, and right now, right now, December into January is all wintertime feeding. Even late November, I find them starting to hit them burns. But yeah, just keep looking for them suckers. And it helps if you've
Yeah.
been in the area a while.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And sometimes if you just, if you bump one, like, hey, he's probably like, if you want to do a speed scouting trip with your flintlock, just run through the woods and take your binoculars and bump a deer and say, hey, this deer's here, and give him a day or two. He's going to be there. You
Yeah.
know, if you're not stalking, sneaking, he's not saying he won't be there then too. But if you want to just put some miles on, just go down through these areas, make noise, walk, but be observant in what you're doing, drop pins,
Right.
just hike fast and let them be audible, let them hear you. And if you really don't know where to go, just hike for do like 4 or 5 miles in different pockets that you think they might be hanging out, and just hike through it, man. Just blow right through it, bump them, talk, cough, make noise.
Yep.
He's going to be comfortable with that, and just move away, listen to you, and go back to feeding. Don't, like, if you know a deer's in there, start hunting them. But if you don't know where to go, maybe that's the best route, is just to
Sure.
bump them. I talk to myself sometimes, like, where you at, buck? Like, just walk. Like, if I want them to know that, like that buck we just bumped the other day,
Mm-hmm.
he listened to us come for 400 yards, and that was comfortable to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Until he run up the hill behind us, and I snuck up there, and I think I bumped him again. I saw tracks running again, but I know he didn't like that. But
Yeah.
that noise, us talking, and he like got up, like, my buddy seems a monster buck. I said, yeah, he was there yesterday too. I said, we should have sent the guy in here with the gun. But I thought about it. I said, yeah, as soon as that guy sneaks over, like, crest that hill, he's going to be gone, because the day before he was gone before I got there. But should have sent a guy in there talking and making all kind of noise. He probably would have shot him. But who thinks like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no one thinks like that. Yeah.
I had that just hunting up the last day up in the Allegheny. We
Yeah.
were strictly on like a still hunting, and this was the first time I ever still hunted. So I was just kind of like bebobbing like over the ridge. I'd look at a vantage point, just trying to sneak up. And like looking back now, like Johnny was just saying, like I wish I would have just like kind of aimlessly walked.
Yeah.
Multiple times, all of a sudden you'd see deer 75 yards out in front of you just taking off through the beach brush, and it's like, shit.
And that's what I always say, like, hunting's the worst thing. You're acting like a predator, whether you're still hunting or like, just, I tell people, your hunting scent is the worst scent out there.
Yeah.
Because a deer can smell you 100 yards away.
Yep.
Can't see you, can smell you, can't see you, can't hear you. This is a threat. This is scaring the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I don't like this. But if he sees you and he smells you and you're walking your dog, this is all right. Yeah, whatever. No big deal.
Right.
And I tell people that I'm like, there's hunting scent, and that's the worst. You get in your tree and you're hiding and sneaking and acting like a predator. And this is what's freaking them out, man. This is what makes them who they are.
Yeah.
The guy
Yeah.
walking his dog or making noise and talking that he could see and smell, and he's like, all right, he can hear.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't no big thing, like I know one guy. I used to know a guy who's pretty crazy. He's like, I just run through the woods with my gun. I was like, what? Big, tall, lanky guy. I just run. He's like, yeah, I run by one buck. And I run past a couple hundred yards. I turn around, come back and shot him. Like, he was running through the woods. I don't know if he was serious, but he like ran and said, dang thing, took note of this buck. And that buck was like, what? And so the buck's standing like, what? Hear him run out and hear him come running back. And he shot him. Which makes sense. It's kind of like when we were pushing that deer,
Yeah.
making noise. He's like, but that deer was comfortable hearing us.
Yeah.
We were audible, and you start sneaking. So, yeah, maybe, whether you get a shot at one or not, at least you'll know he'll be comfortable hearing you come and moving off to the side, letting you go by. I mean, you're going to see a sign or maybe catch his tail, catch a horn, see where they're feeding, and throw a camera or two out. Hey, I'm throwing a camera here, and like let them know. Tell them.
Yeah. I'm gonna do
And
that.
then leave. He'll come back over and
Back over
all
here.
around. Yeah, he'll probably be there a half hour later. He'll come walk back in
This
and be on the
off-season,
camera.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be like, just let every deer know that's in my shouting vicinity.
Yeah,
Putting a camera here over this scrape.
yeah.
Everybody coming.
So I'm gonna
You're
put
right.
a snap sheet here on this tree. Just need your consent.
Put a billboard.
But there are times like I notice with like my cameraman, like there's times I feel like hey, be quiet, because there's times when like I can grab a camera when I'm trying to not let anything hear me.
Mhm.
It's my sense of what the area and what the deer are doing and where they're living. And there's other times like just jump out, slam your door. It's okay, but he don't get it. Like like there's times when I know I want to be quiet and sneak in and grab his camera. I don't want him to know anybody's here, but I know it's a place that I can get in and out.
Yep.
Right.
We just gotta be quiet, be quiet. And I'm like, yeah, don't worry, shut your door. And there's other times where like I want to be audible and just make noise. I just sense that what I need to do in that situation. That's what. And a lot of them cameras, like I'm going to go down to Ohio. I'm going to hunt Friday, tomorrow evening with my bow. And then after dark, I'll pull maybe 6, 8 cameras because I don't know what's going on down there. I don't know what they're feeding on. The acorns all germinated and they're not messing with them. The whites and chestnuts, we had a warm year down there. So it's kind of a burst for me.
Mhm.
But the blacks don't. They won't germinate, or the reds till spring. So I know where some of them are, but I don't want to go in at daylight. It's a hard hunted area. As I say, the pressure's down right now, but I'll go in at night and check those cameras. That actually Jake Belinda was down there with me. Me and him put some cameras, and I don't think he's going to go. He might. I don't know, but make a plan for. It's a 2-day gun season. They up Saturday and Sunday, so I'll hunt them 2 days, and it looks like. And I'm always looking at the wind, which is not for this, direction, but also like them leaves are pretty fluffy and crunchy down there. Like you might just have to sit in a tree all day or stand. You can't really move because you're going in mountains, and they hear you coming a mile away if you don't have any wind. So it
Definitely.
looks like then Sunday there might be a light rain, which is great for just sneaking,
Mhm.
steel hunting. I like to do that. Put on because them deer down there too. It's not the rut. They're just kind of like feeding, moving, maybe transition a little bit. It's not like you want to post up all day. Like I feel like it's a low deer density area too, so if I can get some steel hunting in, but I'm always looking at like the wind, if we got a wind speed or some type of precipitation to soften the leaves up, or like you get that frost in the morning and then it burns off about 9 or 10 if the weather's right, the temperature. Like I play it through my head what's going to go on. Okay, I can sneak around about 10, 11 o'clock because it's going to be wet and I can walk around or get to this, or we'll set up in a spot way here. I don't want to get till 10 o'clock. Then we'll move to where I actually want to go. Or sometimes I get like a gray light. I'll do something like that. Like I don't want to get in too far. then I'll wait till, frost burns off. We can get in, watch, get in further. It's all depending on, the conditions out, or I'll, like in archery, a lot of times I'll go in way before light to where them deer, an hour before light, they just throw caution to the wind of you walking through the leaves. I don't even know why. They just don't care.
Yeah.
I walked up on them, walked by big 150-inch bucks, like, up on these mountains at hour before light. Now you getting the gray light when he's bedded down and listening, because he's listening for hunters, that's a different story. But man, you gotta think about everything you do, man, when you're going out there and hunting. Look at use the app. You look at the weather, look at the wind speed, direction, weather, when it's going to warm up, when it's going to get cold, when you can move, or a lot of these areas are low deer density areas, that I hunt. And it's being mobile sometimes, especially with a gun, is helpful. I know we were down there and there was a high wind. We were able to hike a little bit. We seen a big one down Ohio. I could have had a shot at it, but my cameraman wasn't ready. But it was one of them things. We posted till 11 and we started hiking, and we said, let's sneak up this ridge. And I didn't know. I looked the backside, the leeward side of this ridge, and it was thick. And I turned around, I was like, damn, Harry, it's pretty thick. And if I would have known that, I would have it was a new area. I would have posted closer to maybe see some of that thick stuff. As soon as I said that, a buck was walking up through that thick shit. You know what I mean? What's the chances? And he was a big 150-inch 10-point, but I had my gun on him, but we weren't ready for, and that's how it happened. I didn't take a shot, but that day we had the wind to hike around. But then again, when it was like a 20-30 mile an hour wind, they're not going to be laying on a windward side, like blowing over, so you're going to walk. We dropped down out of the wind. So we tried hiking around like where the wind was, like you get down lower, there is no wind. So we stayed like right above in the wind, and we watched down, to maybe see the deer down out of the wind. And the next day we had rain in the morning, and Jake was down there with us. We put a couple drives on, and then we went still hunting during the day. We should have did it the opposite, because that rain helped us be quiet, still hunting. But then we ended up putting drives on in the morning. Then when we went out at 11 to still hunt, the ground was wet, but it was still, you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
So we can't. We found a little bit of a trail we hiked on. I said, we got it. We can't. We're done. I said, we'll never sneak up on these deer like this. But just look at the conditions and evaluate what's going to happen, and put your time in there. Whether you, like you said, Cody, just hike through the woods. If you don't know, and I always talk about that, no, as much as you can, no matter what you're doing in the hunting woods, know as much as you can, know where the deer are, know where because if you don't know, you just waste your whole season. Like, I'd rather walk through the woods, and I've done that. I went to out of state hunts and just get there, didn't have cameras. I don't care if it was 5 o'clock, November 7th, or 4 o'clock. I run through the woods and, see take note of where I jump deer, where guys' tree stands are, where tracks are after a rain. Like, I spent an hour run through the woods. I got more intel then than, anybody there, fresh intel, you know what I mean? But I'd get out and hike, and if you're not sure where they're at, if you don't know where they are, do make sure you take steps to know where they're at, do what you can. I'd rather know and spook them than not know at all. Right. You're just pissing in the wind. I'd rather spook a buck. Okay, I know. And you got your maps, you got your app. Okay, he went over here. Yeah, there might be some food over there, but he's probably going to come back here. So, to be aggressive and know where they're going to be, figure that out first, and then you can start hunting them animals.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm going to do. Be aggressive in the late season. If I bump them, I bump them.
Yeah.
I take note of it on mapping app. And just go from there. Yeah. Like it's just, and then make note of that wind, his bedding location, which way he ran, what he was running to. Yeah. Maybe follow his track, see where he's going, all that kind of stuff, and then maybe set up near there for the evening. Like if he escaped there and he's going to that food source, set up between that bedding area and that food source. So then on that wind, and it's like, okay, that's the way he's going to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's factors that go into it. Like a coyote can come out and push him the other way. Like there's things that can happen or a hunter comes the opposite way that I just bumped him from. Like there's other situations that can happen, but at least you put yourself in the best position possible to possibly shoot him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like he's come back another day and just get in,
Yeah.
At least, because he's probably, it's not a time of year for them to travel. As long as, like I said, you don't bump them 2 or 3 times, and then, another guy comes in, bump it, it's not as a constant pounding, then it's like, I got to get the F out of here, but
Yeah.
if it's once or twice, he's probably going to hang out, and if you're audible and make noise, he's probably going to be there. But know all that, know
Yeah.
where he's at, know where he's wanting to feed, know,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Tyler, you got any more questions?
I actually don't, buddy.
That's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I covered everything.
We hit a lot in this podcast.
Yeah.
It was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Johnny, where can I know you have a YouTube channel too?
Well, yeah, I do, but it's not really up and running. We kind of might have a little bit of scouting, so
Okay.
we did some scouting this summer. Me and the camera guy. I got, I'm going to put stuff out next year. We're going to work on it through the summer.
Cool.
It's just the Johnny Stewart, so I'm sure I'll advertise. We'll probably do some more scouting here in the spring and get some videos. And I actually got some back probably, I don't know, 15 years ago. We used to, me and a buddy, we used to have Sony Handycams and we used to film all kind of shit. I found those videos. We might put some of them out, stuff from back in the day. I remember we used to film, but I was so into filming. I watch a buck like this. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be shooting, and I wouldn't even get shots at these deer. Then I just quit taking the camera. I was like, I can't do this, So, but yeah, we're gonna get some, hopefully get another. I still got some tags left. Maybe get some cold weather. Maybe get another deer or two on the ground.
Yeah,
to have some good film. So we'll see.
I can't wait to see the videos you put out. Honestly,
Yes.
I can't wait. I mean, you're a very knowledgeable guy. I learned a lot like from the scouting episode we did back in I think it was like June time frame. That was great. I learned a lot from that one. And then like this one here, I've learned a lot. Like you have those brain brain light bulbs. Like you normally people just have one light bulb. Like I felt like I had 5.
Yeah,
just all over my head.
Anytime Johnny tells a story, I said this before. Anytime Johnny tells a story, I always am like keyed in because you literally start visualizing the moment that he's talking about.
Yep.
And I just learned so much from you, man. I can't thank
good, Connor. Good. Yeah. I'm glad I could help you guys out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're going to help out a lot of people who listen to this. And I hope you get something down. I hope listeners who are listening to this also get something down.
Yeah.
Because that'd be cool. We already have some listener success stories from the scouting episode, which is awesome to have that. If some first bucks down from listening to the scouting episodes, which, that's kind of like the goal of like,
it.
And hopefully I can get a freaking deer down in PA.
Me too.
And then you know what, you guys, is when you try hard though, and you don't, like, I'm happy because it's like I did all I could.
Yeah,
I hunted hard. I did everything I thought. I looked at my apps. It's a great season, even though you don't, you learn from it. And like, if you have that mind frame, I learned a lot, and you just keep going into next year. Don't matter, man. You keep going. You're going to kill something if you just keep persisting and being optimistic and keep pushing and don't stop, and work hard at it. And that's why, like, hunting in PA or the mountains of West Virginia or in Ohio, them rugged ass hills. I mean, it's tough, but I feel like, and like I said, beginning of season, I have no idea. A lot of these deer are nomadic. It's not, early season I was on them, but then it's like, you don't know. And it's tough hunting, and you just got to have a good work ethic, work hard, man. Just do whatever it takes. Think outside the box sometimes, and don't cry over spilled milk. I tell people, like, sometimes Bo, don't worry about it. Just go shoot another one. Or I missed one. I was like, so?
Yeah.
But it could be a mental game to where you spend all these times and you finally get a shot and you mess it up. And it's always good to, I think, shoot some does.
Yeah.
Shoot deer in the meantime. It kind of, just hearing that arrow go through them, and just kind of like, then you see that, and you feel that, and you sense that I can do this. You know, whether you miss 4 or 5 deer or whatever it may be, shoot 1 or 2 doe. Sometimes that's what you need to do, and just hear that sound and like actually see it happen. Okay, I still got it.
Yep.
And then like when you see that buck, it'll be like, all right, I know what this sounds like going through his body. You know, I know I'm going to hear this. Like this is what happens next, and you believe it, and you sense that's what happens. You know, because I know it is tough when you hunt, and that's another reason I hunt these deer in these mountains, because it's another mental aspect to where it could be a month, and you have that opportunity, and you don't want to F it up. You know, so like you have to do it, and you might not have shot at a deer in a year, so you can get rusty. So you like or two, you know, like you can get cold, you can get out of it because it's not, you know. Then your mind game comes in, man. I got to make a shot because it's been a year. I haven't seen. I put all these hours, you know, and you just like, and you get all, you just throw. You might as well just shoot up in the air. You know what I mean? But sometimes you just, you know, or just practice a lot. I know, and I got a new bow this year, and I had some issues with target panic in the past, and I got to work on that. But I mean, even just that last deer I shot in West Virginia to help my confidence. Just another feather in your cap as far as that. You know, your confidence level shooting a deer. Just the sound. I knew as soon as I shot the deer. You know, and you visualize it. You believe this is what happens when a deer comes in. And when you see it, it goes through the deer, and it's like, so the next one, that your big one you're after, it's like, then your confidence levels up. You know what I mean? But then you can challenge yourself by putting yourself in these situations, these mountains, hunting these deer with low deer. Like I said, through October, my camera ran the first week of October, thought he was bowing down to me like, man, every time we go out, we see big bucks. This is going to be a good year. For 3 weeks, we didn't even see a deer. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. You know, and I start asking him, where do you think we should go? He's like, I got this big. Like, I don't know. I said, well, you've been with me the last 4 weeks. What do you want? You know what I mean? Because I sure as hell don't know, you know?
Oh my God.
But, and that's the time when you say to yourself, you don't know, maybe that's the time to, like, we kept hunting, and I should have just stepped back and I'm just, you sleep in, or I'm gonna go scout an area. I'm gonna probe around until you get some of the odds in your favor. Not saying we weren't in bad spots, but I think at times I did more hunting than I should have. But I mean, some of these like places I hunt are pretty, and I got a guy following me, and he look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, well, you know, I'll go up over a mountain or wherever it has to be, you know, but I got someone else following me. He's like, this guy's an idiot, you know what I mean? But so I kind of held back a little bit. He's like, man, we do a lot of walking. I'm like, no, I had to cut it in half because I got you with me. And we're doing more hunting than we are walking. But it's you getting that. This goes back to knowing. Man, you got to have some odds. You give them the odds, but you got to have something in your working for you. You can't just, and that's why I say we did a lot of hope hunting. Don't hope hunt. I don't hunt on a hope. I know nothing in life is I hope for, you know?
Yeah.
I hope I did that when I was 18, 15, 16, 20. I hoped a buck would come by. You know, I don't do that. Like, I believe it. I know he comes through here. I know I'm in the right spot. Man, ask yourself, do I got a good chance of seeing this buck? You know, do I have a chance? And you're like, well, I hope he does. Well, then just, you know, your odds are, not saying leave, but you don't, that's what's going to happen. You know, you're just going to hope, and chances are you're not, but you're like, man, I know he sneaks through here. And that's where we were early season, you know, but then you put that pressure on them and other guys. And that's another thing with hunting these deer in these mountains. It changes so fast, whether it's 70 degrees, 75 degrees, and in, you know, end of September, October, and they're feeding here, then, you know, you might get a frost, and then they're moving, you know, then guys hunt here, then they're up on, it's just like, then they want to scrape, and then they're going to look for does. And I think I was talking to Jake about the scrapes, how he had the same issue, as I did. Like, it was scrape week or whatever, the 14, 15, and I had cameras running PA on scrapes. I come back on the 20th and I scratch my head. I didn't have one deer on any of them scrapes. I think Jake had the same thing. Things are weird anymore. I think weather and climate and hunting pressure, things happened 15, 20 years ago, the traditional rutting and shit like that.
Yeah.
Things are changing. I
Yep.
feel like anymore, I'm up into November and asking myself, where's this deer bedded at?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm 300 yards, I'm like, nah, I'm not in the right spot. Yeah, the does are here. He moves through the scrape, and we bumped another deer was living on a point in this mountain. Man, I was putting a stand up. I checked the camera at daylight. We put a stand, and he run down a mountain. So I tried hunting him 2 days later. Same thing. I was like, this buck's in the same spot on a point in this mountain, and he was a good mid-40s buck. I said he ain't running all over creation, and this was beginning of November. I mean, and I was another buck that was in the area, is probably pushing 150. It's bigger. And I'm thinking, yeah, there's a lot of doe here. It was a spot that I always see doe. It was a new area that I hunted. I'm like, but where's that big one? I'm like, he's not just gonna come bebopping through the middle of the woods,
Right.
400 yards from where he's bedding, November 7th, 8th, or 9th. Yeah, there is if there's a hot doe, and I think the doe ratio to bucks is pretty. I think a lot of these bucks anymore are tight to these does, and they're just waiting them out. At nighttime, they do their rounds, and they're just playing the waiting games. Like I call it musical chairs, and you go around the chairs, and you stop, you sit down. Daylight comes, they just sitting right down on that chair, and you just be like, oh, it's getting day. I'm gonna hide. I'm gonna like that's the doe that's in heat. I'm not walking through these open woods and someone gonna shoot at me. I smell guys all through the forest all year. They're shed hunting, summertime, fall. They're everywhere. It gets daylight. It's nearest doe that smells good. I'm just gonna sit down here.
Yep.
And I find a lot of these big deer that they get in. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm just from what I'm seeing, like be close to that doe or be, and close to where he's bedding. And usually his bedding is really efficient in being close to does and everything.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what's going on where he's bedded. But yeah, it's like musical chairs. They just comes daylight, they just lay down. It's like, oh, pick a chair and stay here. And then, they stay there till the music starts going, okay, all right, which is dark. And they get up and they start moving again. And there's us sitting in our tree stand like idiots, burning all these hours. And they're laying down by these does or wait until dark time. You know what I mean? Because I do talk to like guys like you, and whether it's Steve or Bo and
Mm-hmm.
other buddies of mine, and it's the same shit, man. It's not deer are running, through November. They go, yeah, we ain't seen anything. We ain't seen anything. We ain't seen anything. And you hunt the sign and where you think they would be, and all the guys are in the woods and they're just hiding, boy. The musical chairs, they're sitting down. I don't give a shit about breeding. I don't want to die. There's guys out there everywhere. I'm gonna pick a chair and sit down. You know what I mean? So it's something I thought about this year going forward next year. You know what I mean? It's like I got to get in tight to them. But then again, the deer up in my area is browsers, and there's not like the terrain is like flat to gradual, and it's like then you scratch your head, and you're like, it's like Bo's dad that one time, Joe. It didn't make me feel bad. He's like, I don't know where they bed. It's like good because I said the same thing. I spent all this. I don't know where they bed. I don't know where these bucks are bedding. You know what I mean? They just lay the fuck down, and whether just by a log or close to the does, there's a lot of cover, and they're just browse and lay down. And it's like no traditional like other states bedding areas and stuff like that. That don't always happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then we could talk all night about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We kept you here for 2 hours now. So yeah. It's definitely a lot of knowledge dropped in this one. Where can people?
Yeah, I didn't talk to anybody about hunting the last 5 days.
Oh,
I was down in West Virginia myself. We were up camp, so a little dry spell here. It got me fired up for Ohio. So
good. I'm glad we could be able to you, Johnny.
I kind of got out of it because I was all like rifle and I was like, oh, I'm pushing for my buddy. He's like, I can't wait to get up now. And then I come home and get back to your normal. I was like, I'm kind of losing it. I'm like, I just come on tonight. I'm like, oh man, here we go. I'm gonna go hunting tomorrow. Get back in it.
Johnny Stewart going to Ohio. Note it.
Big buck going down. Johnny, where can people follow you at? Follow along with you and all your journeys.
Yeah, just on Instagram, the Johnny Stewart. Like I said, we'll have YouTube out. There might be, I think he put one video out this year, just some scouting. I think it's Johnny Stewart, the Johnny Stewart on YouTube too. I think there might be a scouting video there from this summer, but yeah, that's it, man.
Cool. Well, Johnny, we really appreciate you coming on here and always sharing your knowledge with us.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks, Todd. I appreciate it,
Hey,
man.
appreciate you, Johnny. Thank
Good
you.
luck out there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna
good luck
grind
to
it
you.
out.
Good luck to you in
Yeah.
Ohio too.